Our first speaker is Nico, and I would really mispronounce his last name, so he told me I could just say it's Voldemort, and he is from Carbonfuture, and he's going to be talking to us about building trust in biochar carbon removal.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. Can everybody hear me? I think so. Great. Yeah, it's not Voldemort, it's Wohlgemuth. This is a Austrian Swiss name. Anyway, don't ask you to pronounce my last name. Just call me Nikolaus or Nikki. That's me. I work with Carbonfuture since 2 years. I'm head of our supply team. Supply team works with all the typical carbon removal providers, amongst which biochar producers and users are a big crowd. And I'm happy to talk today about building trust in biochar carbon removal and accelerating the progress towards the net zero goals. I think this is what we're all working on, and we have an opinion how this should work. Now, in my presentation, I kind of provided two sections. One is first section is about accelerating. Why do we need to accelerate? We need to accelerate because we have this problem with the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere. Everyone knows that. Just want to point out that we only have another 1.5 to 5 years to actually climax at the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere, which is, according to the IPCC, at the 1.5 degrees limit. So there's little time to go until we are already at 1.5 degrees. And everything which we emit more than that will be even worse in our situation. That's why we need to actually accelerate activities, not only in carbon removal, but majorly in reducing emissions. Reducing emissions is what we need to do. You can see this typical reduction pathway. And what we also know and why we're working on removals is that, of course, we do need to produce carbon removal and support carbon removal activities and produce removal to compensate for the residual emissions. We will never manage to compensate all of the emissions we have with carbon removal activities. We need to compensate the residual emissions, and we need to be ready to compensate these then towards 2050. Looking at acceleration and scale now, what you can see here is the growth which is needed. So 2022 there were kind of 200,000 tons of carbon removal, technical carbon removal provided. Last year it was around 300,000 tons of CO2, but we need to scale up to 10 gigatons of carbon removal activities to compensate for these residual emissions. This is a huge scaling pathway. It's scaling 5,000 times, and this is just to compare it a little bit with something tangible. This is the growth rate of TikTok in their best year for the next 27 years. This is the challenge we have ahead. Now I want to look a little bit at the enabling environment. So we have, as an environment for carbon removal activities and support, there are different measures. There are, on the left-hand side, policy measures like demand and control instruments, which would be kind of emission limits for CO2. This is currently not the case at all. We do have no emission thresholds for CO2 in the industry. Second pillar is compliance market. This is something which is already tested and happening in the EU since 2008, and in California since 2012. You have the California Cap and Trade program. So these are programs which subsidize or enable industries to reduce their emissions and support industries which are better than others to actually get more active. Currently, these demand and control instruments and compliance markets are not at all tailored for carbon removal. They are only looking at emissions reductions. And for that reason, we currently only can work on the voluntary carbon market. So if you want to have your project supported by the revenues of carbon credits, you need to work on the voluntary carbon market. And on the right-hand side, you still also see innovation funds. This would be subsidies to projects without probably accounting for the removal or emission reduction achieved. This is probably not so relevant in this scope here. Now, looking at the types of activities which need to be done. We have, of course, on the left side, CO2 reduction, emission reduction. This is something we need to do anyways. We need to reduce, whether now with carbon credits or without carbon credits. Important is that if you issue a carbon credit for a reduction project, and you, by purchasing these carbon credits, purchase the allowance to continue emissions, then this one emissions which you continue to emit will still be in the atmosphere, and this will not help us to actually solve the problem and to achieve the goal in 2050. For that reason, we need to issue and work on carbon removal credits, and these are the credits of your Biochar projects. This is the currency we need to now distribute, and the thing which we need to work on. Now, looking at the technology, there is a very interesting, I think, graph now here. We see that in removal technologies, what has been already issued in terms of tons of CO2 reduced, Biochar is currently, this is from last month, it was 91%, now it's 92.9% of all the removal technologies or certificates issued and distributed. Biochar is the majority. And for that reason, also Carbonfuture focuses currently majorly on Biochar, because this is the biggest vertical we have. This graph is from cdr.fyi, so if you want to look at the markets for carbon removal and the certificates thereof, maybe go to that homepage and look at it. There are different interesting statistics. So now we need speed for accelerating CDR. This is clear. We need speed. We need to really do our best to achieve that goals. But what we don't need is we don't need to lose traction here. We have heard about scandals in the voluntary carbon market in the past, which are now scrutinizing us, which are putting a lot of criticism on the voluntary carbon market. We need to strictly avoid that this is also transferred to the market of carbon removal credits, because currently, as you have seen, we have no other means than the voluntary carbon market to support these projects out there, and the projects do need some additional support from the removal credits. For that reason, we need to discuss how to actually build trust in this carbon removal market. And building trust is needed for several reasons. And I'll show this graph or this slide because I like it most. Previously, I've been working in waste management. If you compare now CO2 to the waste of our society, and it's a very permanent waste, we cannot just get rid of it. And you want to issue a credit which can be used to balance for this waste, then we need to ensure that this service of issuing the credit and holding the credit is not, is keeping up with its promises. If you pay the waste collecting company to take back the waste, and after 5 years they come back with half of the waste and put it again in front of your door, you will not be very happy about the service. Same with the carbon removal. If we take out CO2 of the atmosphere and we then store it somewhere and we issue a carbon credit which balances for residual CO2 emissions, we need to be extremely sure that this is a very permanent storage and it will not get back to the atmosphere. And for that reason, we need to build this layer of trust, which then also reports about the different activities and all the details of this carbon removal. Now, in the voluntary carbon markets, there are, on the left-hand side here, the technologies, the removal technologies, and then there's in the middle, between the supply and the demand for removal credits, there is this trust layer. And this trust layer today and also in future will consist of independent standards which describe methodologies, how to account for the removals, and then also of independent entities like auditors verifying and validating and verifying the project. And these entities ensure that the carbon credit which is issued also contains what the value on the label is. Now, the problem with that and these entities is that that the existing process of issuing carbon credits, whether emission avoidance credits or removal credits, is very lengthy. You have these three groups of entities. You have the standards, you have the auditors, and then you have bodies which take care of the MRV. This can be the project owner or someone independent. The whole cycle of issuing a carbon credit under existing standards takes 1 to 1.5 years from from that point in time when you actually achieved the emission reduction or removal until the issuance of the credit, and this is a huge delay. And this delay, of course, provides difficulties with financing the projects, because the time until you get the monetary contribution is long. It doesn't help you with investment unless you find someone who is very risk averse and will take this risk, some buyer doing some prepayment. So this system is great for issuing carbon credits and provides sufficient trust, but it doesn't actually help us with the acceleration. So this is now very interesting because the text is missing. I don't know why. I'm very sorry for that. I don't know. Anyway, what I wanted to show here is that this trust can be provided, and we can speed this up if actually the technology is sound. So if your technology is ready to scale up, then of course if all the data which you collect is verifiable, and if you have the independent parties working on this certification process being well acquainted with the topic, and also look at the project with sufficient diligence, and if the carbon credit is then issued into a registry, which is also serving for the purpose that no double counting occurs and one carbon credit cannot be sold twice, then you can achieve this layer of trust. But now, how do we accelerate? Because acceleration is needed, as we heard, trust is needed. How do we accelerate? One way how to accelerate, and this is our opinion, Carbonfuture's opinion, is that we digitize this whole system. So we go away from manual processes and we go into digitization, and like this we can cope with the speed of the carbon removal market which we need. This is now Carbonfuture's MRV Plus system here pictured. We have a base layer of MRV services. We have a platform in which you can actually, on the one hand, track each unit of carbon removal produced, so big bags of biochar, and we provide the information and make it available to standards and to the auditors to double check to be able to double check on the carbon removal and to issue the carbon credit. And the idea then behind each carbon credit is that you have a data look-through from the buyer side for each carbon credit to the actual removal activity. So this is our core value proposition. And like this, with such a digitization, we can hopefully achieve the speed which is needed. I'm just figuring that the next text also is missing, but we'll cope with that. The data necessary, so what is happening, or what do we need to do? We need to collect all data necessary for calculating the removal. We need to also have a closed chain of contracts between the entities, because with the removal product, with the biochar, you have the CO2 contained inside the product. And now if you issue a carbon credit, then somehow the CO2, which is in the biochar, in the physical biochar, is separated and sold to someone else. And that's why in this whole chain of custody, you need to have contractual arrangements between the parties what with the CO2 needs to happen. This all can only take place if a carbon storage attestation, meaning some attestation which ensures the permanence of the removal, if this is signed off and if contractual relationships about the ownership of the removal are agreed upon. Here you can see a small and brief brief look through to our platform. So what we do is we track the carbon removals, the packaging units of biochar. We have a lot of information then about the packaging unit of biochar contained here, also about the end usage, so what happened to the biochar. And then we have information on the registry, sequestration curves of each packaging unit of biochar, which you deploy. And based on this information, you can then issue the carbon credit. So what do we need now to scale CDR? So you can imagine the text here. Anyway, I will tell you. We need standards and methodologies being capable of dealing with carbon removal. This said, there are standards out there. We collaborate with many of them. We collaborate with Carbon Standards International. With this standard, we're already digitally integrated. We collaborate with Puro.earth, second or the biggest standard in carbon removals. And we collaborate with Vera VCS. And we are able to actually connect to all these standards through our system. And the second thing which then needs to happen is that the auditors should not look at the single project. They should rather actually test and verify our platform or platforms like ours about their functionality and not go into the detail of checking each single project, because the platform itself gathers the information and then only spot checks are needed, whether information is probably consistent. And like this, you can really speed up, and with digitization, you can help to speed up the whole work and value chain in carbon removal. And then, sorry for that, now it's switching to the next. And then we also need, next to this, to the MRV, we need the registries which are ready to deal with carbon removal credits and which take care about the carbon accounting on the level of the certificate. And lastly, we of course need buyers of the removal credits. As long as we are in the voluntary carbon market, and as soon as we move to another market, this MRV system we provide is still needed, but we probably have then a different purpose. We have more the purpose of an accounting system and not so much of a system which then is used to issue the carbon credits. This said, here is a small snapshot about some of our buyers from credits from Carbonfuture's platform. And all the credits we have on our platform provide a data look-through from the credit to the biochar. And with this, I want to close. I want just to introduce you Carbonfuture's team. We're currently 38 people, having 3 offices, one in Zurich, one in Freiburg, in Breisgau in Germany, and one here in California. And I thank you very much. If you have questions, then yeah, let's discuss now for 5 minutes, and otherwise you can reach out to me by email. Thank you so much. Yeah, Q&A. Not?
No.
Ah, okay, sorry.
Questions. I
Questions.
don't think we have a microphone, so I would ask you to speak up and then maybe you can repeat the question in case not everybody hears it. No questions. You gave up here.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the question was how this exactly works what our role is, Carbonfuture's role in the value chain between carbon credit and biochar project. So maybe to explain this, once again in a little bit more detail. So I understand our service, which is this collection of data of the removal project and this digital system, as the foundation on which then different things can happen. So we collect data from the supplier, from the biochar producer, about the packaging unit of biochar, what is contained there, the carbon amount, probably also the pollutants. We check whether it's a biochar which is eligible under the standard to be deployed. We check about the end usage. And all of that data is then provided on our platform, and auditors can come to our platform and look at the data, double check it, whether it's correct, and based on this audit of the data, then a carbon credit can be issued, which is also directly a direct connection between our platform and the registry of the standard where the carbon credit lives. And the connections between the systems are working through APIs. So the digitization here is deep, and it should allow that that you can do all these checks without having a lot of additional communication.
Any other questions?
No, No, we don't renumber credits. We just have the access on our marketplace to the credits which are living in different registries. So there is a direct link. But the credit can, of course, only live once, and where it's physically stored is in the registry, but it can be traded through our marketplace. The benefit to you is that you, as a buyer of carbon removal credits, can come to us, and you only have one entity you need to deal with. You don't need to go to different biochar producers and then ask them, "Do you have a carbon credit for me?" We are an aggregator in that sense. With the benefit that we provide additional layer of data look-through. You can look from each carbon credit to the packaging unit of the biochar, which provides trust to the buyer that this is really something, a material which he is supporting.
Could you stand up so people can hear you?
So we are verifying or doing due diligence on the level of the biochar producers, that we ensure that all of the activities for which carbon removal credits are issued and traded through us are also correct, and there is no reputational harm or anything risky involved. So we do a due diligence on our side because we only want to sell what we also believe in. So the buyers I just showed before, and this can be probably, is probably true for all the removal project buyers here. These are pioneers in a way. So as an example of Swiss Re, for instance, they are one of the very important players here. They have established an internal CO2 price, and they want to transition to carbon removal to 100% being net zero, I think until 2030 even. So they are building this market. Also Microsoft. Microsoft is currently the buyer of the most removal credits. They have purchased already around 3 million tons of carbon removal. So they are the pioneers, and I think all others need to follow.
His question was, why would they pick one biochar producer's biochar versus another?
So how they operate to actually select projects is that they normally tender out, and then aggregators like ours, we propose projects to them, and they then select the projects, and they are also doing their due diligence themselves. And of course, what they like is if the project is following a third-party standard, which is trustworthy, but also if the project has different sustainable development effects, or if the technology is very novel because they want to create innovation or support innovation. So there are hard facts, but also soft factors which motivate buyers to invest into projects.
Okay, last question.
These companies, they understood, not the on-sellers. South Pole and First Climate, these are companies selling on the credit, so they bet on the value increase of the credit, but the buyers, the companies purchasing for their own use, they actually understood that we only can get to net zero if we invest into carbon removal. And as they understood that, they piloted. Yes, this is what they're doing. They consider themselves being kind of, I don't know about the exact claim they are now using for this carbon removal credits, but this is the goal, that they can say, okay, we did everything which we could to actually not harm humanity. No, there is no. There is now two bodies, kind of independent bodies, in this voluntary carbon market, which govern somehow the quality of the credits. The older one is called ICROA, and the new one is called ICVCM. These are kind of associations which ensure that that the carbon credits in the voluntary carbon market.
Biochar.org appreciates the support of our sponsors, exhibitors, presenters, and attendees. We look forward to seeing you at our next conference in September 2025.